Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And I'm here for another essentials list to add to my series that I've been working on for the past couple of years. And I'll link to that full series down below. I have several videos in it. I have one on baking essentials, so you can look through there. I think I have food preservation essentials in there too. I know there's several. I just don't remember what all they are. But I finally came up with a new category, and that is skills essentials. So what that means is what kind of skills, and you're going to have to decide this for yourself, but I think there's several on this list that we already do, that we already have these skills that I think are essential to anyone who's looking at being more self-sufficient. And some of the things you want to look at, is your ability to provide food for yourself and your family, the ability to be able to repair necessary things or create necessary things, the things that would be most necessary to get you by in difficult situations. So I'm going to go ahead and list off just some of the skills that between me and Patrick that we have that are pretty essential to us. So one of those would be the ability to sew. This is both in using the sewing machine, and I do have a treadle machine, so I don't need electricity to run it, and also being able to sew by hand. So this is great for being able to create our own things, blankets, clothing, and more, curtains, etc. But also the ability to be able to repair things that get torn or need patched, and so on. And then there's woodworking / carpentry. Patrick has the ability to build just about anything. He's built structures. All of my kitchen cabinets Patrick built himself, and I did a video a couple of years ago when he finally finished out the whole kitchen that I'll link to down below if you'd like to check it out, so you can see my whole kitchen rather than just the one corner I'm typically standing in when I'm shooting videos. And then there's metalworking. This has been actually pretty essential because Patrick has been able to repair things or create things out of some metal he had on hand, such as the latches for both the gate to the chicken yard and the door to the chicken coop. He fabricated the latches so we could lock those shut when we needed to. He does have videos on all these things, by the way. And then obviously the ability to cook and bake from scratch. This, I think, is very important to know how to do. Not only is it going to be healthier to get away from boxed and packaged foods, but you might not be able to just easily go buy those things, and really those things are far more expensive as well. So not just the ability to follow a recipe as is written in a recipe book, but the ability to create your own. So I just recently made up a dish. I had some whitefish. I didn't feel like doing the same thing I normally do with it. It was fish that Patrick had caught. And so I thawed it out, and then I decided I'm going to create a casserole out of it. So I had some potatoes that I dried back in 2023 in the thin slice disc form like you would use for scallop potatoes or moussaka. And I rehydrated those and I used those. I made a white sauce from scratch and used the fish with some vegetables and added some cheese in there and some herbs and spices, and it turned out pretty good. It was just an experiment. I'd probably do it a little bit differently the next time around after trying it once. I'd probably double up on the sauce for the amount of food I had in there, or use less potatoes, or just layer it differently. So I'll do it again. The taste was really good. But anyway, just the ability to kind of be able to create recipes based on what you have on hand, then being able to figure out, okay, what would be the best way to switch this up to make it even better? So of course, gardening is going to be right in there, and gardening is a skill that it takes time to develop, because it doesn't matter how many books you have on gardening, how many YouTube channels you follow. on people who garden in your own area. It's going to be different for each person. Your soil conditions are going to be different. Your climate is going to be different. Your zone is going to be different. Remember, zone and climate are not the same thing. Zone can be a part of your climate, but it's only a small part. So you got to understand what your whole climate is like, because I've used this example innumerable amount of times, but we in Northwest Washington State, in the wettest, rainiest part of Washington State, are in the same zone as Deep South Homestead. But our climates are about as opposite as they can be. So I cannot grow all the same things that they grow or grow them in the same way that they grow them. I have to do things very differently here than they do. So that's what I'm talking about. You can't just base it on, oh, we're in the same zone, this should work for me. You're going to have to learn that on your own. And the best way to learn it is not only by talking to locals who already garden, but by experimenting. Just like me figuring out where, after years, finally finding the one spot I could best grow rosemary here in an area where the ground is almost always saturated, and rosemary doesn't like to have wet feet. So it took me a while, but I figured it out. And no, it's not in pots. I tried that one too, and it didn't work here. One that's important to me, but might not be important to everyone, is the ability to crochet. I love being able to crochet. Not only can I make Afghans, I can make stuffed toys for the grandbabies or as gifts. I can make sweaters. I've made many a sweater over the years, scarves, hats, fingerless gloves, and mittens. Haven't delved into making socks. I just haven't been interested, but I have made slippers. So to me, that's a necessary skill. For somebody else, it might be knitting. They might prefer that. At least one of the two or both are very good skills to have because of all the things you can do with them. And so I do recommend looking into that. Now, I do have a whole series on how to crochet, a Crochet 101 if you're new to it, that I'll link to down below if you'd like to learn. I also have a series on sewing where I give some basics plus some real simple things that you can whip up yourself, from aprons to skirts, gift bags, and more. Then you've got your auto maintenance and repair, having at least the basics down, learning how to change your oil filter, fuel filter, your air filters, just at least having the basics down for your various different rigs. Patrick has to know all of them for all of his rigs. So not just our, regular, traveling vehicles, our trucks and our car, but also for his heavy equipment. But he also learns as he goes on how to create or repair a lot of the things that can go wrong on the different vehicles himself. He's replaced window regulators. He's replaced ignitions. He's replaced so many different things when you put it all together over the years. And some of it is just learning as he goes. But he has the ability, just the ability to learn as you go is a skill on its own. And of course, there's the skill of running the heavy equipment as well. And that's, for our sake, that's definitely a good skill to have because we have the equipment. And now when we're working, just like when he's up on the mountain working our mountain piece of property, he knows how to run that equipment to clear out areas for eventually having a cabin and more. And then there's animal husbandry. Now, how deep you want to get into that is going to depend on who you are, all different types of animals you want. We considered goats or sheep at one time. I don't know if we'll ever get to that. If I ever do, though, it won't be goats. I've decided it would be Icelandic sheep if we ever take a next step, but we couldn't do it here on our little shy 1/3 acre piece where I do most everything else, which includes my chickens. So we have our chickens here, no problem. But anything other than that would be too much with the gardens, the chickens, and everything else going on. Now, we don't have the space to take on that, but maybe down the road. But at any rate, you got to know how to take care of these things. Chickens are typically the easiest thing to start with, but there's still a learning process and a skill set that you got to learn. Even though they are the easiest, when they get sick, do you know how to deal with it? do you have at least a good idea on how to deal with a sick chicken, or how to deal with if they get a bound egg? I've never had that in my almost 9 years of having chickens, but that can happen. Let's go back to the skill of the carpentry. Patrick built the chicken coop himself, which was underneath the playhouse he built for our boys many, many years ago. And then herbal medicine. This is something that should be a lifetime learning process. Well, most of these things can be a lifetime learning process. You should never think you've got to a point where you know it all about anything. But herbal medicine is such a broad topic, and knowing what's going to work best for you and your family members can be a matter of trial and error, knowing what you're allergic to or they're allergic to. And then, of course, again, knowing what can grow in your area, or knowing what you can forage in your area, because there's plenty that each individual person can grow or forage for, but it's all going to vary depending on where you live. So that's another thing that you got to first come to that understanding, figure out what's out there, then learn how to work with those different herbs to be able to create your own herbal medicines. The last thing I have on the list, but I should have mentioned this first, because this is the most important skill to have, absolute top of the list. And that is the skill of being able to problem solve. Because here's the deal. If you can be able to work your brain and learn how to problem solve and come up with solutions to your problems, that's going to be the first step of then being able to develop all the other skills. So if you come up with something's broke, and maybe it's not something you can fix by sewing or metalworking or carpentry or woodworking, but you may have to figure out another way to repair that thing, or to create something that will make your life easier and make things go faster. So what is the old adage? Necessity is the mother of invention. So when you have a need, you got to have the ability to be able to figure out how to take care of that need. Especially if you have limited funds or limited resources, what are some ways you can work around that to fix something and to be able to get by? So problem solving, and then of course right along with that, as long as you still have good books and access to internet that doesn't include AI, at least for now, you can be able to look a lot of stuff up and learn. But you got to realize, especially when it comes to anything online, you don't know what if everything is down and you don't have access to internet, or how long is the access to your internet going to be available to you in the first place? Maybe you can't afford to pay for it, whatever. So having good quality books and the ability right now to research things and understand how to go about researching things is really important, and do that while you can. And when I say good books, what I'm talking about is, I say go back before the invention of AI and AI writing books. Go back before that, when they're written by real skilled people. One book that I tend to recommend, because for its biggest bang for the buck, is the Carla Emery's Encyclopedia of Country Living. And I'll put a link to that down below. It might already be in my description. I'll make sure I get it in my Amazon store as well. Biggest bang for the buck because of the amount of information that is in there. And there's many other books, but if you're looking for just a one-stop shop kind of book because your funds are limited, that's where I'd start. And remember, you can look for any of these books secondhand, either on Amazon, sometimes you can get good deals, or through other sites. So anyway, that's my essential skills list. And don't forget to check out the whole playlist. I'll be linking right at the top of the description box down below by clicking on more or show more somewhere down here below the video screen. If you're on a smart device, you may have to close the comment section to be able to see that. Sometimes the comment section will hide it. So that's why they keep changing things and making it more complicated and frustrating. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Any thoughts, ideas you'd like to share, some of your favorite skills, those that you find most important, put those in comments down below. And thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.